Hello once again, everybody. Andrew Rogers here for TST, Total Sports Talk. Thank you very much for joining me. It is a pleasure to have you here for another episode. It is Halloween. So happy Halloween, everyone. And it is officially October 31st, which means we are 1 day away from Movember, one of my favorite months of Movember. I'm really excited. As you can see, I got the full beard going right now. This will be gone, and the most beautiful mustache you'll ever see in your whole entire life will be frequently featured on this show every week. I will give you my update and show you how beautiful this thing's going to grow, and we'll see how ugly it turns out at the end of November. I'm very excited about that. I love doing Movember. It's a great time, really it is. And so of course it's Halloween, so happy Halloween. Stay safe out there. For anybody going out for Halloween, stay safe. And what I would strongly recommend with the candy, make sure to properly portion it out. Don't give it to them all at once. Come on, what are we doing here? I understand. You know what? Hey, parents, take the good stuff, man. You want the good stuff. All right. So like I say, strap in. It's another phenomenal episode of TST coming your way. We're also in the getting into the month of November, wearing a poppy for Remembrance Day. That's a very big deal in the month of November. So very excited about that as well. You know what? A lot of good men and good women, sacrifice their lives for our country and go out and get a poppy and support the Canadian Armed Forces and all that sort of thing. It's very important, and it's a good sign of respect. I always try and wear a poppy every time, and to show my support and gratitude. So I would recommend doing the same. Like I say, loaded show for you today, TST Total Sports Talk. Here's what we're going to cover. We got Hawk Tawk as always. We also have reports on the Owen Sound Attack, the Toronto Maple Leafs, the Toronto Raptors. We're going to talk about the Major League Baseball story, and we're also going to recap everything that's going on right now in the National Football League, all on our show today. And of course, we got the TST Sports Movie Pick of the Week at the conclusion of the show. Very excited about this week's selection. Without further ado, we're going to kick off the show this week with Hawk Talk. Are you ready? You better be. It's going to be awesome. TST Total Sports Talk presents Hawk Talk, brought to you by Gord's Imprints and Design. New location opening at 685 Goderich Street in downtown Port Elgin in the fall of 2017. Visit www.gordsimprints.com for more. Welcome back. The Saugeen Shores Winterhawks took their 2-1 record into Durham this past Friday to face off against the undefeated 2-0 Durham Thundercats. Here's the highlights.
OOAA Senior AA men's hockey action as the Durham Thundercats host the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks. Early in the first, just a minute in, Winterhawks looking to get on the scoreboard.
Backhander to Underwood. Underwood 2-on-1 with Elder. Going to the net. Underwood scores! Blake Underwood! How's that for a wedding gift?
That's newly married Winterhawks forward Blake Underwood with the snipe. 1:10 into the game, it's 1-0 Winterhawks. Still in the first, Quentin Bruce leaves it for Ben Davis. He comes in all alone on Jeff Flagler and beats him to tie the game at 1 apiece. Less than 30 seconds later, Thundercats were looking for more.
Long pass up, breaking in is Brown. Stops, shoots, deflects, he scores! Chris Brown!
Terpstra with the beauty stretch pass to Chris Brown. He makes no mistake. It's 2-1 Thundercats. Second period, now Trevor Smith trying to even up the score, but his shot rings off the crossbar past Gatlin Burt. It remains a 1-goal game, 2-1 Thundercats. Skip ahead now to the third period. After Colin Rigney made it 3-1, he pots his second of the night, 4-1 Thundercats. The rest was goaltender Gatlin Burt, one of his 29 saves on the night, as the Winterhawks fall 4-1 is your final. Jeff Flagler would only manage 11 saves in the defeat, as the Winterhawks outshoot the Durham Thundercats 30-15. Thundercats defenseman Jeff McMillan also chipped in with 2 assists on the evening to help Durham improve to 3-0 on the season.
It was a tough loss to the Thundercats. The Saugeen Shores Winterhawks falling to 2-2 on the season. Very tough game for the Winterhawks. They didn't look as sharp as they would have liked to. It's just one of those things. Early on, they're still finding their stride. I mean, I get it. I've been there as a hockey player. Sometimes it takes you a couple games to get your feet going, and you know what? You'll find your stride. There's a lot of season left, and you really, you never know. I mean, it's early on. There's lots of games left. This team is going to make some noise. Saugeen Shores will rebound for sure. We'll take a look right now at the current standings in the WOA Senior A Men's League. All this info is supplied by Jordan McKinnon, who runs the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks on YouTube. He is the play-by-play announcer on YouTube on their YouTube channel. He runs a Twitter feed for the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks. He's the director of public relations for the Winterhawks, and he does an amazing job. I've really enjoyed working with him. He's been nothing short of phenomenal, so thank you very much, Jordan, for that. Your WOAA Senior AA Men's Hockey League standings are as follows. In the first position, you got the Tillsonburg Thunder. 5 games played, 4-1 on the season for them. They lead the league with 8 points. Next up is Durham. Through 3 games, they are undefeated, 6 points, 3-0. Followed by the Clinton Radars. They are 3 games played, 3-0 on the season. Coming in at number 4 is the Shelburne Muskies. 4 games played for them, 3-1 on the season. They're also tied with Ripley Wolves, who've played 4 games. They are 3-1 on the season for 6 points. The Saugeen Shores Winterhawks come in at number 6. Through 4 games, they are 2-2. They are joined alongside the Huron East Centenaires, who've played 4 games and split all 4 of those games. They're 2-2. The Tavistock Royals are number 5 at 2-3 on the season, while the Petrolia Squires, through 6 games, are 2-4 on the year. The Lucknow comes in at number 10. 4 games played for them, 1-2-1 on the season, 3 points for them. They are followed by the Milverton Four-Wheel Drives. 2 games played, 1-1 on the season for them. Shallow Lake Crushers are in number 12 spot. 5 games played, 1-4, not a great start for them. And the Elora Rocks come in at number 13. They have yet to win a game. They are 0-4-1 in 5 games played thus far this season. You can find him commentating every single Winterhawk game that's up online on the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks on the Saugeen Shores Winterhawks YouTube page, and make sure to follow him. Make sure to subscribe to his channel on YouTube, and make sure to follow him on Twitter. He is phenomenal. This week's player profile. Without further ado, here it is.
My name is Jeff Flagler, and I live currently in Owen Sound, Ontario. I would say probably back in Major Bantam, we won our SCTA AAA championship. That was pretty big. We were the first team in all of our AAA age group to ever win it, so that was a pretty big memory for us. I would have to say that I've let in a couple goals from the other end of the rink, just along the ice, multiple times actually, and 1 or 2 times, or the one time was in a playoff game and we ended up losing the game by 1 goal, so it was pretty embarrassing.
That would be embarrassing.
Absolutely.
That's a toss goal?
Oh yeah, it was honestly worse. I tried to put the paddle down and it just went right under, not even,
Goal is a tough position, isn't it?
Very tough, very tough. Just being with the guys, again, coming to the rink, practice or games or whatever. Most teams I've played on, actually the majority, everyone's been great. So you'll never get an atmosphere like a group of hockey guys.
Yeah.
So.
All right, first question. Former NHLer and Paraga native Brett McLean was drafted in the 2nd round, 32nd overall in the 07 draft. What team?
Phoenix.
Attaboy. Good job. Which Canadian NHLer scored the golden goal in the 2010 Winter Olympics in Vancouver?
Oh my God. Sidney Crosby.
Attaboy.
Yes.
There you go.
Good
job. In 1996, Colorado Avalanche won their first Stanley Cup when they came over from Quebec. Who did they defeat?
Oh, pass.
Okay. The answer is Florida.
Okay. Would never guess that.
Boston Bruins captain Zdeno Chara has played for 3 teams in his career. Boston Bruins, Ottawa Senators, and the team that drafted him. Which team was that?
Pass. I didn't even know he played for
The New York Islanders.
Okay, wow. All right.
What was Josh Jackson's character name in the Mighty Ducks movies?
Oh, Josh Jack.
This is fun.
I pass.
Charlie Conway.
Dang, it was Charlie. Oh, no.
And spell the word Zamboni.
Zamboni?
Correct.
Alrighty.
Good job, buddy.
Honestly, since I was a kid, I always heard that Port Elgin was a great organization to play as a senior. So growing up, whenever I thought the junior would be done and maybe the NHL or the professional hockey wasn't, I definitely wanted to play in Port Elgin. I've heard great things about it, and since I've been here, they've treated me with a great deal of respect, and I couldn't ask for anything more. So it's just being around the organization itself, the name is pretty good.
So next up for your Saugeen Shores Winterhawks, it's back to the home confines of the Plex in Port Elgin, Ontario, where they will take on the 2-4 Petrolia Squires. Yes, that's right, Squires, not Squirrels. The game time is at 8:30 p.m. at the Plex this upcoming Friday. It should be a dandy. You don't want to miss it. Saugeen Shores Winterhawks. It's WOAA Senior A Double A. That's a tongue twister, isn't it? To try and get out. Saugeen Shores Winterhawks. It's going to be a phenomenal game against the Petrolia Squires, 8:30 this upcoming Friday at the Plex. You don't want to miss it. It'll be a dandy. That's all we got for Hawk Tawk this week. We'll be right back after this with the Owen Sound Attack report.
TST Total Sports Talk presents the Owen Sound Attack report.
Welcome back. This is your Owen Sound Attack report. Now, any sport of any franchise is always tough when you're faced with the situation where you need to play 3 games in 3 nights. That is exactly what the Owen Sound Attack were faced with this past weekend. Sean Dursey and Aiden Dudas scored 2 goals apiece, and goaltender Zach Bauman made 30 saves as the Owen Sound Attack defeated the Kitchener Rangers 5-2 at the Odd in Kitchener. The Attack improved to 7-3-0-2 on the season. They outshoot Kitchener 43-32 in the victory. In the second game of the week, no better revenge than scoring against the team that traded you away the first chance you get to face them, as was the case for Brady Lyle. The former battalion turned attack defenseman scored his first in an Owen Sound uniform, and Zachary Roberts had the game winner as the Owen Sound Attack edged the North Bay Battalion 3-2. Attack goaltender Zach Bauman picked up his second straight victory, very sharp in the net when needed, making 19 saves in the victory. In the third game of the weekend series saw the 3 games in 3 nights finally caught up to the Owen Sound Attack as they dropped a 5-4 decision to the defending Memorial Cup champion Windsor Spitfires. The Spitfires made the most of their opportunities, scoring 5 times on just 18 shots. Windsor captain Aaron Luchuk had a 4-point night, including a goal and 3 assists, vaulting himself into the top of the OHL scoring race. Michael DiPietro of the Spitfires stopped 38 in the victory. This week's TST Player of the Week is defenseman Sean Dursey. Sean Dursey is the Attack Player of the Week with 3 goals and 2 assists in 3 games over the weekend. As for the Player of the Month, we have co-players of the month. Defenseman Sean Dursey and forward Nick Suzuki are the co-players of the month for your Owen Sound Attack. Nick Suzuki is off to a red-hot start. He is third in league scoring, 10 goals and 16 assists for 26 points, while defenseman Sean Dursey leads all defensemen in scoring, 8 goals and 17 assists for 25 points. Now here are your leading scorers for the Owen Sound Attack. Nick Suzuki leads the way, 10 goals and 16 assists for 26 points. He is followed by defenseman Sean Dursey, who has 8 goals and 17 assists for 25 points. Kevin Hancock, Nick Suzuki's linemate, 6 goals and 14 assists for 20 points for him. Maxime Shushko comes in at number 4, 9 goals, 5 assists, 14 points, while Aiden Dudas has 9 goals and 4 assists for 13 points. That rounds out your top 5 of the Owen Sound Attack. Looking now at your league-leading scorers, Aaron Luchuk of the Windsor Spitfires leads the way, 15 goals, 13 assists for 28 points. He is tied with Jordan Kyrou of the Sarnia Sting, 12 goals and 16 assists for 28 points for him. Suzuki and Durzi come in at 3 and 4 respectively. There is the rest of your league-leading scorers. Taking a look now at your Western Conference standings, the Sarnia Sting lead the way at 14 and 1 on the season through 15 games for 28 points. They are followed by the number 2 seed Windsor Spitfires at 9-5 and 1. They have 19 points through 15 games. Number 3 is the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Through 15 games, they are 10-3 and 2 on the season for 22 points. The Owen Sound Attack are in number 4 at 8-4-0 and 2 on the season for 18 points. They are 1 point up of the Kitchener Rangers. Rangers are 8-6 and 1 through 15 games this season, good for 17 points. The Erie Otters are in number 6 spot, 15 games played, 7-6-1 and 1 on the season for 16 points. The number 7 seed is the Guelph Storm, 15 games played, 7-6-0 and 2 on the season for them and 16 points. Well, the number 8 seed is the Flint Firebirds. They are at 6-7 and 1 on the season, 13 points earned for them through 14 games so far this season. The London Knights have come on strong of late. They've strung together some wins. They are 5-9 and 1 on the season, 11 points. Still a lot of hockey left to be played, 15 games through for them. And coming in at number 10 is the Saginaw Spirit. They are at 13 games played. They are 3-8 and 2 on the season. So like I say, the Owen Sound Attack are off to a red-hot start. They sit right now in the 4th spot. No word of a slouch there. Like I say, they're 8-4-0 and 2, and they're rolling. Nick Suzuki's going. Sean Durzi's going. It's good to see this lineup looking good, looking strong. Zach Bauman's played a lot of hockey, and he looks very good. It'll be interesting to see if they switch over to Matt Guzda to give Bauman some rest down the stretch in the next upcoming games. Speaking of which, let's take a look at what's on the docket for the Owen Sound Attack this upcoming week. Next up for your Owen Sound Attack, November 3rd at Mississauga against the Mississauga Steelheads. They are 5-9 on the season. Then on November 4th, they face the London Knights at the Bayshore. The London Knights come in 5-9 and 1 on the season. So 2 games for the Owen Sound Attack this upcoming week, Friday and Saturday. Friday is in Mississauga to face off against the Steelheads. Saturday back in the Bayshore to face off against the London Knights. This has been your Owen Sound Attack report. We'll be right back after this for the Maple Leafs report. Don't go away, you don't want to miss it. We'll be right back after this.
TST Total Sports Talk presents the NHL and the Toronto Maple Leafs report.
Welcome back, everybody, to your NHL report and Maple Leafs report right here on TST Total Sports Talk. Now, even the casual sports fan knew that whatever's going on with the Toronto Maple Leafs at this point in the season, the magic is not going to sustain itself, okay? Even the most casual fan can recognize this. What's happening to the Toronto Maple Leafs through 9 games is incredible. They're 7-2. It's unbelievable. They're right there. If it wasn't for the Tampa Bay Lightning getting off to as hot a start as they would be all the buzz in the NHL and the league. But you got a lot of teams that are playing really well. We'll get to more of that because the Leafs got a killer stretch coming up here against some teams that are very, very good. But we'll get into that. Right now, I'm saying the Toronto Maple Leafs, they've had some magic and they've gotten off to an incredible start. It's incredible what they're doing. They're 7-2, but the magic is going to wear off. It's not going to sustain itself. They're not going to go 16-10 or 62-10 the rest of the way. It's just not going to happen. Get it out of your head. It's not going to happen. So they knew that the magic was going to wear it out. Unfortunately, that came this past week. Talk about a rude visit as the Carolina Hurricanes dominated the Toronto Maple Leafs by a 6-3 score. Teuvo Teravainen had a goal and 2 assists, while Burlington, Ontario native Josh Joris had 2 goals as part of 4 different Hurricanes to find the back of the net, as one can only describe as a lackluster effort from top to bottom for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Austin Matthews, Dominic Moore, and Patrick Marleau scored for Toronto, who dropped to 7-3 on this season. In game number 2 this past week, the Leafs officially are on a losing streak after a 4-2 setback at the hands of the visiting Philadelphia Flyers. Leafs falling to 7-4 on the season as the Flyers improved to 6-5. Jakub Voracek and Brandon Manning had a point apiece, while Valtteri Filppula and Claude Giroux scored singles for the Flyers. Brian Elliott made 28 saves in the win. Leafs got both goals from Nazem Kadri, the first on a beauty pass from Austin Matthews, to open the scoring. Leafs' Frederik Andersen stopped 26 shots in the loss. Like I said, Leafs dropping to 7-4 as the Flyers improved to 6-5. And finally, our third game of the week this past week, it was supposed to be a recipe for a win. Patrick Marleau's homecoming and his return to San Jose for the first time as a Toronto Maple Leaf was all the recipe for the Leafs to end this losing streak. However, it would not happen, and they would drop a third straight game, losing at the hands of the San Jose Sharks by a 3-2 score. Tim Heed, defenseman, had a goal and an assist, and Martin Jones improved to 7-0 in his career against the Toronto Maple Leafs. Austin Matthews and Nazem Kadri scored for the Toronto Maple Leafs in the loss. Our Leafs TST player of the week this week is Austin Matthews. Through 3 games this past week, Austin Matthews registered 4 points. He's on a roll, and he is your TST player of the week for the Toronto Maple Leafs. Now, he is also your TST player of the month for the month of October. He leads the Leafs in scoring, 9 goals and 7 assists through 12 games this season, good for 16 points. He is also slotted in at the number 4 spot in the league scoring race. He's been absolutely phenomenal for the Toronto Maple Leafs, no question. He's deserving of our TST player of the month for the Toronto Maple Leafs for the month of October. Looking now at your Leafs scoreboard, your Leafs leaders in the scoring department, we got Austin Matthews leading the way, 9 goals, 7 assists for 16 points for him. He is followed by Nazem Kadri, 7 goals and 5 assists for 12 points for him. William Nylander comes in at number 3, 3 goals and 7 assists for 10 points, while Morgan Riley slots in at number 4, 1 goal and 9 assists for him, 10 points on the season. James Van Riemsdyk is your number 5, 5 goals, 4 assists for 9 points. That rounds out your top 5 of the Toronto Maple Leafs. Switching over now to your league scoring leaders, Steven Stamkos of the Tampa Bay Lightning leads the way, 6 goals and 18 assists for 24 points. His line mate Nikita Kucherov has 13 goals, 8 assists on the season for 21 points. He leads the league in goals. Jaden Schwartz of the St. Louis Blues, 8 goals, 9 assists, 17 points for him. While Austin Matthews comes in at number 4, 9 goals, 7 assists for 16 points. He is tied with Philadelphia Flyers forward Jakub Voracek, 2 goals and 14 assists for him, good for 16 points on the season. Looking now at your Atlantic Division standings, the Tampa Bay Lightning lead the division 10-2-1, good for 21 points on the season. The Ottawa Senators are number 2, 5-2-5 on the season, good for 15 points. The Toronto Maple Leafs slot in at number 3, 7-5-0, 14 points on the season, while the Boston Bruins come in at number 4, 4-3-3 on the year, 11 points for them. The Detroit Red Wings are number 5, 5-6-1 on the year, 11 points for them. The Florida Panthers are at number 6, 4-6-1 on the season, 9 points for them. The Montreal Canadiens come in at number 7, they are 4-7-1 on the year, 9 points. And the Buffalo Sabres come in at 8th, 3-7-2 on a very early season start for them, 8 points. They trail the Tampa Bay Lightning by a lot in the Atlantic Division. Obviously, they got a lot of ground to make up. It is still early. Now, like I was saying before, this is not the ideal time for the Toronto Maple Leafs to go through a losing streak. They've lost 3 in a row at a time when they started the season at 7-2. Everything was looking all peaches and rainbows and everything was looking all dandy and sunshine for them. But now is the worst time for them to go through a 3-game losing streak because of what they got to come next. So next up for your Toronto Maple Leafs, Wednesday, November 1st at 10 p.m. start against the Anaheim Ducks, who come in with a record of 6-4-1. Tall order for them, no question about it. The Anaheim Ducks, very tough team. By the way, the Toronto Maple Leafs are in the midst of a 4-game Western road trip. And you know what? It got off to a rough start, losing to San Jose, losing to 3 in a row. They got a lot of ground to make up here. Next up for them after the Anaheim game is a matchup Thursday, November 2nd at 10:30 p.m. against the Los Angeles Kings. Doesn't get any easier. Los Angeles sports a record of 9-2-1 on the season. Saturday, November 4th, Hockey Night in Canada, 7 p.m. start in St. Louis to face off against the 10-2-1 St. Louis Blues. Tall order again, no question about it. This will be a tough tough set of games. And then if that all wasn't enough, Monday, November 6th, they return home to the ACC, where the Vegas Golden Knights will be there to meet them. They are 8-2 on the season. So to put this into perspective, the Los Angeles Kings, the St. Louis Blues, and the Vegas Golden Knights, 27 wins combined for the three of them. And this is the time you want to go on a 3-game losing streak? Come on, Maple Leafs, get your stuff together, okay? Let's start playing some hockey and let's start winning some games. It's going to happen. Wednesday, November 1st, 10 p.m. against the Anaheim Ducks. That's their next game. And you know what? It's going to be a busy week for them. 4 games on tap. We'll see what we can do. That's all for the Maple Leafs report this week on TST. We'll be right back after this with your NFL story. Don't go away. We'll be right back. TST, Total Sports Talk, presents the NFL Report. Welcome back, everybody, to the program. Andrew Rogers here, TST. Thank you very much for joining me. I hope you're all doing well. Welcome back. Comfortable? Good. This now is your NFL report for this week's edition of TST. We are following week number 8. Here is the scores from this past week in the NFL. The Baltimore Ravens defeated the Miami Dolphins 40-0 in the Thursday nighter to improve to 4-4 on the year, while the Miami Dolphins fall to 4-3. Running back Alex Collins rushed 18 times for 113 yards to lead the Baltimore Ravens to victory. The second game saw the Minnesota Vikings come out on top against the Cleveland Browns in England by a score of 33-16. Minnesota improving to 6-2, while Cleveland falls to 0-8. Jerick McKinnon had 122 total yards. He also added a rush touchdown in the victory. The Buffalo Bills defeated the Oakland Raiders 34-14 to improve to 5-2. They are undefeated at home. LaShawn McCoy, a big part of that. 27 rushes for him, 151 yards, and a touchdown. Oakland falls to 4-4 on the season. The Cincinnati Bengals defeated the Indianapolis Colts 24-23. Cincinnati improving to 3-4, while Indianapolis falls to 2-6. Andy Dalton was very good on the day, 17 of 29 through the air, 243 yards, and 2 touchdowns for him. Tom Brady went 32 of 47 for 333 yards and a touchdown as the New England Patriots upended the LA Chargers 21-13. New England improves to 6-2, while the Chargers drop their first in 4 games. They are 3-5 on the season. Mark Ingram rushed 18 times for 75 yards and added a touchdown as the New Orleans Saints defeated the Chicago Bears 20-12. New Orleans Saints moved to 5-2 on the season, while the Chicago Bears dropped to 3-5. Matt Ryan went 18 of 29 for 254 yards and 2 touchdowns as the Atlanta Falcons defeated the New York Jets 25-20. The Atlanta Falcons moved to 4-3 on the year, while the Jets fall to 3-5. Carson Wentz went 18 of 32 for 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, and an interception for him, as well as 44 rush yards for Carson Wentz. 33-10 was your final. Philadelphia improves to 7-1, while the San Francisco 49ers drop to 0-8. Cam Newton was very good on the day, 18 of 32 for 154 yards and a touchdown. He also threw an interception as the Carolina Panthers defeated the Tampa Bay Buccaneers 17-3. Carolina improved to 5-3, while Tampa Bay drops to 2-5. And possibly the best game of the season thus far to date, the Seattle Seahawks defeated the Houston Texans 41-38. Seattle improving to 5-2, while Houston drops to 4-3. Seattle's superstar quarterback Russell Wilson went 26 of 41 for 452 yards, 4 touchdowns, and an interception. He was just absolutely phenomenal in a game that saw a ton of lead changes, back and forth scoring. It was just a real pleasure to watch this football game. The Dallas Cowboys outscored the Washington Redskins 33-19. Dallas improving to 4-3 on the year, while Washington falls to 3-4. Ezekiel Elliott rushed 33 times for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. could be the last game action he sees for a little while anyways. We'll get to that in a moment. Pittsburgh Steelers defeated the Detroit Lions in the Sunday Nighter 20-15. Pittsburgh improving to 6-2 on the year, while Detroit falls to 3-4. The Pittsburgh Steelers rookie wide receiver Juju Smith-Schuster. That's right, Juju Smith-Schuster. He hauled in 7 catches for 193 yards and a touchdown. That touchdown was a 97-yard catch and run for the longest touchdown in Steelers franchise history. Just unbelievable for him. The final game of Week 8 saw the Denver Broncos fall to the Kansas City Chiefs 29-19. Kansas City improved to 6-2 on the year, while the Denver Broncos fall to 3-4. Travis Kelce was the big producer of the day. 7 receptions for him, 133 yards, and a touchdown. So, like I said, loaded schedule. There were a lot of phenomenal games. Here's your leaders, statistically, from week number 8. We started with the quarterbacks. Russell Wilson led the way, 26 of 41, 452 yards and 4 touchdowns. He threw an interception as well. Matt Stafford comes in at number 2, 27 of 45, 423 yards, no touchdowns and no interceptions for the Detroit Lions. Deshaun Watson had himself a day, 19 of 30 for 402 yards, 4 touchdowns and 3 interceptions. He also became the first Texans quarterback to throw for 400 yards in a game with 4 touchdowns or more, and also rush for 50 or more yards in the victory. Tom Brady come in at number 4, 32 of 47, 333 yards and a touchdown for him. And Ben Roethlisberger, 17 of 31, 317 yards, a touchdown and an interception for Big Ben, rounding out the top 5 of the QBs. Over on the rush game, we had LaShawn McCoy lead the way, 27 rushes for 151 yards and a touchdown for him. Ezekiel Elliott, 33 rushes for 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. Melvin Gordon of the LA Chargers, 14 rushes, 132 yards, and a touchdown, including one of over 70 yards. Just unbelievable for him. Alex Collins of the Baltimore Ravens, 18 rushes, 113 yards. And Chicago Bears running back Jordan Howard, 23 rushes for 102 yards in the Chicago Bears loss to the New Orleans Saints. And finally, our receiving leaders for the Week 8 was led by DeAndre Hopkins of the Houston Texans. He caught eight catches for 224 yards and a touchdown. As mentioned, Juju Smith-Schuster, 7 catches for 193 yards for him. Travis Kelce, as also mentioned, 7 catches for 133 yards and a touchdown. Marvin Jones Jr. of the Detroit Lions, 6 catches for 128 yards. And Houston, once again in the top 5, Will Fuller caught 5 balls for 125 yards and 2 touchdowns to round out the top 5 there. Now, looking at the NFL as a whole, we have some things that we want to report and update you on here. First, we want to update you on the health of Chicago Bears tight end Zach Miller. Zach Miller sustained a very gruesome leg injury over the weekend in a loss to the New Orleans Saints. He was going up for a ball in the end zone. He ended up coming down with it, and he ended up completely obliterating his leg. It bent the complete opposite way that it was supposed to. It was very gruesome. It was very hard to watch. If you haven't seen it, please check it out, but remain cautious that what you could see is very graphic in nature. If you have a weak stomach, I wouldn't recommend it. It's not for the faint of heart. However, the thing with Zach Miller, so they were fearing that he may lose his leg completely. He may even, it was a very dire situation for Zach Miller. But they were able to do a complete, successful vascular surgery to repair Zach Miller's leg. There's no timetable for a return. It doesn't look likely he'll return this season. The rest of his career is very much in doubt as to whether or not he'll actually end up playing the game of football again. We also had a crazy week in the NFL with trades. This week's the NFL trade deadline came and went. There were a couple of notables that we want to fill you in on. The first was New England backup quarterback Jimmy Garoppolo being traded to the San Francisco 49ers for a second-round pick in 2018. He instantly becomes the starter there, as they also, in a corresponding move, released quarterback Brian Hoyer. Jimmy Garoppolo could be the quarterback of the future for the San Francisco 49ers. Only time will tell there. We also had Miami running back Jay Ajayi being shipped over to the Philadelphia Eagles in exchange there for a 4th-round pick. It's a huge deal for the Eagles as they get a stud running back to go ahead with that duo over there of Wendell Smallwood and LeGarrette Blount. What a monster. I mean, if I was anybody, I would not want to face the Philadelphia Eagles. It's sad. It's scary enough that they're 7-1 so far on the season. And our final notable trade has the Buffalo Bills being involved in a trade with the Carolina Panthers. They are receiving a wideout, Kelvin Benjamin, from the Carolina Panthers in exchange for a 3rd-round pick and a 7th-round pick in the 2018 draft from the Buffalo Bills. That's going to Carolina in exchange for Kelvin Benjamin. Instantly slots in as the number 1 receiver, in my opinion, in Buffalo. It'd be really interesting to see what happens there. Best of luck, obviously, to Kelvin Benjamin. Hopefully he's a good fit in Buffalo. Next story we want to cover in the NFL is the story surrounding Ezekiel Elliott. It was reported that his suspension is back in place, and if it does happen, he will start his suspension in week number 9, and it will run for 6 games in total. What this means is that he will return in week 15 for the team's final 3 games and possible postseason if they should be in a position to make the playoffs. You know what? We don't know as to whether or not the Ezekiel Elliott camp will appeal. We suspect he will, and this thing will drag on. Only time will tell. We don't have a complete update of that. As of this recording, we do not have a complete update as to whether or not that will happen. Keep a tab on. If you have him in your fantasy leagues, keep up to date as to whether or not you should put him in your starting lineup. Obviously, he's a streamer to start. If he is playing, he's a phenomenal fantasy option. If he's not, he will put up a 0, and you will probably lose your weekly matchup. Just saying. Now here's a look at your Week 9 schedule in the NFL. Week 9 features the Buffalo Bills and the New York Jets on Thursday Night Football. Buffalo comes in at 5-2, while the Jets are at 3-5. Kicking off the Sunday games, we have the Atlanta Falcons at 4-3 against the Carolina Panthers at 5-3 for them. The Indianapolis Colts and the Houston Texans will do battle. The Indianapolis Colts at 2-6, Houston at 4-3. The Cincinnati Bengals travel to Jacksonville to face off against the Jaguars. Jaguars at 4-3, while the Bengals are at 3-4. The Tampa Bay Buccaneers will take their 2-5 record into New Orleans to face off against the Saints. Saints are 5-2 on the season. The LA Rams are at 5-2, and they travel to New York to face off against the G-Men. They are at 1-6 on the season. The Denver Broncos face a tall order at 3-4 on the year. They're into Philadelphia on the road to face off against the 7-1 Eagles. This will be no easy task for the Denver Broncos in this one. The Baltimore Ravens take their 4-4 record into Tennessee to face off against the Titans, who are at 4-3 on the season. Arizona Cardinals at 3-4 will go into San Francisco to face off against the winless 49ers. It's understood to me that Jimmy Garoppolo will play as he has a full week of practice to get in before this matchup. San Francisco desperately looking for a win. They are at 0-8 on the season. Washington Redskins take their 3-4 record into Seattle to face off against a very difficult Seattle Seahawks team. They are at 5-2 and rolling on the season. Kansas City Chiefs are at 6-2, and they travel to Dallas to face off against the Dallas Cowboys, who could be without Ezekiel Elliott on Sunday. They have a 4-3 record on the season. Our Sunday night matchup on NBC goes between the Oakland Raiders at 4-4 into Miami to face off against the Miami Dolphins at 4-3. Miami, between Jay Cutler and Jarvis Landry, those are the only 2 weapons the Miami Dolphins are carrying these days. And finally, our Monday night matchup is the Detroit Lions at 3-4 into Green Bay to face off against the Green Bay Packers, who are at 4-3 and sliding fast after losing Aaron Rodgers. On the bye this week for week number 9 is the Chicago Bears, the Cleveland Browns, the LA Chargers, the Minnesota Vikings, the New England Patriots, and the Pittsburgh Steelers. That's a look at your that's a look at your NFL report for this week's edition of TST Total Sports Talk. We'll be right back after this with your Toronto Raptors report. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. TST Total Sports Talk presents the Toronto Raptors and the NBA Report. Welcome back to the program once again, everybody. Andrew Rogers here. TST is what you're watching. This is your Toronto Raptors NBA report. The Toronto Raptors are off to a nice start the season, 2-1. They continued a 6-game road trip with a visit to Golden State to take on the very high-powered Golden State Warriors this past Wednesday. Warriors proving too much on this night as Steph Curry led the way with 30 points as the Warriors downed the Toronto Raptors 117-112. Kevin Durant chipped in 29 points while Klay Thompson added 22. DeMar DeRozan led the Toronto Raptors with 24 in the loss. The loss drops the Raptors to 2-2 on the season. Raptors bouncing back though with a win over the LA Lakers 101-92. Laker rookie Lonzo Ball didn't even crack the top 5 scorers for the Los Angeles Lakers in this one. DeMar DeRozan once again led the way with 24 points and 5 boards, while Kyle Lowry finished with a triple-double. He had 11 points, 10 rebounds, and 12 assists to lead the Toronto Raptors to victory, like I said, 101-92. Raps improving to 3-2 on the season. The third game of the week for the Toronto Raptors this past week was a very solid effort from top to bottom. They are strung a second consecutive victory, 99-85 over the Portland Trailblazers. Despite a game-high 36 points from Damian Lillard, it was DeMar DeRozan and Kyle Lowry stepping up once again. DeMar finished with 25 points while Kyle Lowry had 19 points and 10 rebounds. The Raptors now sit at 4-2 as they continue their 6-game road trip. The Raptors, they're playing really, really well right now. They're getting a lot of effort across the board from a lot of good young kids. Pascal Siakam is looking very good. He's putting up big numbers in big minutes for the Toronto Raptors. They're very, very happy with him. I think if I was speaking from a Toronto Raptors perspective, I would look for more from CJ Miles for sure and Norman Powell. These two guys need to be big. They need to put up big points, especially in the absences of Jonas Valanciunas, who's missed a few games, and Serge Ibaka, who is unavailable in the Portland Trailblazers game. So it's going to be huge for these guys to step up big and come up big for the Toronto Raptors moving forward. Now, let's take a look at what's in store for your Toronto Raptors this upcoming week. Up next for the Toronto Raptors, who sit at 4-2, Wednesday, November 1st, they continue their 6-game road trip with a 9 p.m. tilt against the Denver Nuggets in Denver. Denver sits at 3-4 on the season. They follow that up with a tilt to conclude their 6-game road trip Friday, November 3rd at 9 p.m. against the Utah Jazz from Salt Lake City, Utah. Utah sits at 4-3 on the season. Finally, they wrap up this upcoming week with a tilt back at the ACC Sunday, November 5th, a 6 p.m. tip-off against the visiting Washington Wizards. Wizards sitting also at 4-2 on the season. So like I say, it's a tall order for the Toronto Raptors. They had a really tough schedule in the month of October. They flip over the calendar. They're still on the road for a couple, but they're back in the friendly confines of the ACC on the weekend against the Washington Wizards. They're off to a phenomenal start. It's very funny, though, what's going on right now in the NBA because there are some teams that are all across the board that are in a position where I think a lot of the conventional wisdom thought they weren't going to be. The Cleveland Cavaliers have gotten off to a slow start. The Golden State Warriors have gotten off to a slow start. San Antonio Spurs, same thing. Be really interesting to see if this, if it continues the rest of the way throughout the season. I highly doubt it will. I think at the end of the day, you're still going to see teams like the Boston Celtics and the Cleveland Cavaliers right there at the top. You're going to see the Golden State Warriors and you're going to see the San Antonio Spurs right there at the top. I don't think any of that's going to change necessarily, but it's interesting the way the start of the season has gone and whether or not it will sustain itself throughout the course of the NBA's season. This has been your NBA Report. We'll be right back after this. Don't go anywhere.
TST Total Sports Talk presents the Major League Baseball Report and Toronto Blue Jays Report.
Hello, welcome back. This is your MLB Report section of the program, TST. That's what you're watching. Total Sports Talk is what it stands for. Andrew Rogers here with you, thanking you for being here. We're going to talk about the MLB and the 2017 World Series. If you haven't been watching, you're missing out. You're missing out huge, because this has been probably one of the most entertaining World Series in recent memory. Okay? Let's just give you a breakdown. Okay? I'm going to go game for game, and I'm going to give you a little bit of detail from each one. And then I'm going to try and make sense of it at the end of the day, because it has been one of the craziest World Series in recent memory. In a World Series that was supposed to be dominated by the pitchers, has been dominated by the offenses. Except for Game 1, which I'll explain. Okay. Game number 1. A 3-1 Dodgers score. That was the final. Co-NLCS MVPs Chris Taylor and Justin Turner each hit solo home runs, and Clayton Kershaw struck out 11 over 7 innings as the Dodgers prevail in the first game. They win 3-1. They take a 1-0 series lead. Okay, that one made sense. You know, Clayton Kershaw dominates. Dallas Keuchel struggles, but ultimately the Dodgers prevail. They hit 2 home runs, 2 solo shots. That was enough. 3-1 was the final. Or sorry, 2 home runs. They each hit solo home runs. There was another run scored somehow, some way. Anyways, 3-1 ended up being the final for the Dodgers in game number 1. They took a 1-0 lead. Game 2 is where it got really wacky. George Springer hit a 2-run home run in the top of the 11th to give the Astros a 7-5 lead, which they would hold on to even the series at 1 game apiece. These two teams combined for a playoff record, 8 home runs, while the Astros became the first team in playoff history to homer in the 9th, 10th, and 11th inning of a playoff game. Houston Astros prevailing 7-6 in 11 innings. See what I'm talking about? 11 innings, a marathon game. Verlander and Rich Hill, they started this game, but they were an afterthought by the time this game was over. 7-6 ended up being the finals. Each team hit 4 home runs, just unbelievable, combining for 8, most in playoff history. Game number 3. The Astros jumped all over Yu Darvish in the bottom of the second, scoring 4 times, and holding on the rest of the way. They take a 2-1 series lead with a 5-3 victory in game number 3. Okay, Lance McCullers Jr. versus Yu Darvish. Not a bad pitcher matchup. Astros jumping all over Yu Darvish in the bottom of the second inning. Ultimately, he did not last. He pitched an inning and 2/3, was pulled, and it was all Houston at that point. They held on. They took a 2-1 series lead. Game number 4 saw the Dodgers even it up at 6-2. 6-2 was the final. It was a 1-1 game into the 9th, and it saw the implosion of Astros closer Ken Giles, as the Dodgers used a Bellinger RBI double and a Barnes sacrifice fly to chase Ken Giles before reliever Joe Musgrove served up a 3-run home run to Jock Peterson of the Dodgers to cap the scoring for them, as the final score ended up being 6-2 for the Dodgers. The series was now tied 2 games apiece. So not bad. 4 games in, tied at 2. Perfect. You want a World Series that is going to be tight-knit. It's going to be close. It's going to be competitive. You know, you don't want one team just steamrolling another. That's no fun. You want 2 teams that are going to slug it out, and they're going to go right down to the very end. If this doesn't go 7, it would be a disappointment, I think, because of all the craziness that has happened. This is where it gets crazy. Game number 5. We get back to the Game 1 starters from the very first game. Dallas Keuchel on the hill and Clayton Kershaw on the hill. Again, these 2 pitchers would be an afterthought when it came to the final score. This game went 10 innings. The final score had the Houston Astros defeat the LA Dodgers 13-12. That's right, 13-12. 2 teams combined hit 7 home runs in this one, 5 by the Houston Astros. But it was Alex Bregman with the walk-off hit against Dodger closer Kenley Jensen to give the Astros a 3-2 lead in the series. So now, here's where we stand. Tonight, the Astros send Justin Verlander, yes, Justin Verlander, who once was a Detroit Tiger this year, came over in a last-second move at the trade deadline from the Detroit Tigers to the Houston Astros, was originally hesitant to come over and accept this deal, but it's worked out swimmingly for him. Justin Verlander on the hill, trying to capture the first World Series in team history for the Houston Astros and the first World Series for Justin Verlander. It will be his very first. Why not? It's a fitting way to end it all for Justin Verlander if he can pitch his team to victory here at the Houston Astros. The Dodgers will send Rich Hill to the mound in hopes of forcing a Game 7. Boy, wouldn't that be something. Rich Hill, leading them to the promised land, to a Game 7. If this goes 7 games, it would be absolutely incredible. It would be the best World Series, in my opinion, hands down. I know I'm not that old. I'm only 30. I've only been around for that many of them. But in my existence, this would be one of the best World Series that I think I've ever seen. So, this game takes place tonight. Verlander versus Rich Hill. 8:20 is the start from LA, the home of the Dodgers. They have the last 2 games as the format is. 2 in LA, 3 in Houston, 2 back in LA to finish. If this series should go to Game 7, it will be Lance McCullers Jr. as the probable starter for Houston, while the Dodgers will counter with Yu Darvish. Now, they could go to Clayton Kershaw on a relief appearance, possibly even a start. We'll see. That could change. It all depends on what happens tonight between the Houston Astros and the LA Dodgers in game number 6 of the World Series. It's been phenomenal. I expect nothing more than fireworks tonight. This time next week, I'll fill you in on how it all went down. Oh yeah, because that's what I do right here on TST, Total Sports Talk. We'll be right back after this to wrap the show with your TST Sports Movie Pick of the Week. Stick around. We'll be right back. Welcome back, everybody. This is TST. Andrew Rogers here with you. I hope you have enjoyed the show thus far. We've reached the point in the program where it is now time for our TST Sports Movie Pick of the Week. My selection for this week is the 1994 release of Angels in the Outfield. Yes, this is my pick. Disney movie, yes. Phenomenal movie, absolutely. This movie is so good that it gives me goosebumps just thinking about it. It's a phenomenal movie from top to bottom. It's an all-star cast. It's unbelievable because, really, the only stars of the movie should have been Danny Glover, Tony Danza, and Christopher Lloyd. But all the other phenomenal actors that were in this movie in a lesser role at the time before they became big, it's just phenomenal. So, this movie is all about a boy named Roger praying for a chance to be reunited with his family. And he prays, and his answers his wishes are granted. And the only way that he believes that his dream and his wish will come true is if the team that he loves the most, the California Angels, win the pennant. This team sucks. This team needs a lot of help, and Roger's wish turns out to be the thing that gives it to him. Just listen to this cast. I just picked a few people here. Danny Glover as manager George Knox. Tony Danza as Mel Clark. Christopher Lloyd as Al, the boss angel. Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Roger. Neil McDonough as Whit Bass. Yeah, that one surprised me too. Adrian Brody as utility infielder Danny Hemmerling, who comes in a pinch hit role when they take out their biggest slugger, and he hits an inside the park home run because the ball keeps moving around. It's hilarious. One of the funniest scenes in the whole movie. And finally, Matthew McConaughey plays Ben Williams, one of the outfielders. I couldn't believe this when I first figured this out. It was jaw-dropping. Like, I really couldn't. Lots of phenomenal actors, some who haven't even become big stars at that point in their respective Hollywood careers. It's just a phenomenal cast, and it's a phenomenal movie. It's just fantastic.
But instead, I'm going to shoot from the hip. You know, there are a lot of times in sports when there's no logical explanation why things happen. Sometimes a player gets hot and goes beyond their physical ability. Is it just adrenaline? I don't know. But I do believe there are times in life where something stronger, higher, or maybe spiritual is with us. I can't explain it, But something has happened to my players this year. Something that's changed the way they play and the way I manage. You can call it faith, you can call it angels, you can call it whatever you want. That's all I have to say.
So yes, your TST Sports Movie Pick of the Week this week is the 1994 release of Angels in the Outfield. Once again, our color commentators clothing is made and purchased from Vistaprint. Go to vistaprint.ca for more. They have phenomenal selection. I'm sure they'd be able to adhere to any of your custom apparel needs. This is Andrew Rogers signing off for another week of TST Total Sports Talk. I hope you've enjoyed it, and I hope you'll come back next week. There'll be a wicked Movember mustache. I'm really excited for that. I hope you are too. Take care, everyone, and we'll see you again next week.